Zealand businesses are being warned to batten down the hatches as cyber criminals expand their targets after taking down the stock exchange website for the fifth consecutive trading day. Two media outlets, RNZ and Stuff, say they've been the target of cyber attacks in the past 24 hours. Both say their sites remain secure. RNZ understands the attacks may have come from the same group that's been plaguing the NZX. Last week, the Government Communications Security Bureau, or GCSB, was called in to help and has now issued a security advisory urging businesses to prepare for denial of service attacks. The Minister in charge of the Bureau is Andrew Little, and he joins me now. Good evening, Minister. So we brought in our big guns, the GCSB, and still these hackers have managed to take down the stock exchange website again. How?
Well, I understand they caused some disruption to the website, although the stock exchange was able to continue trading. The purpose of the website is to get out market information so it's equally available to everybody. They found other ways of doing that. But as they've continued trading and as they stepped in to deal with the latest attack, they managed to get the website back up and running as well. Look, the nature of distributed denial of service attacks is, they harness thousands of computers from around the world to send messages to this particular website, and they can stop it functioning basically. And they've done that to other enterprises in New Zealand. We know that. We know they're doing it to other places around the world. It is the nature of these things. There are criminal actors out there who seek to disrupt. Sometimes they do it for other motives as well.
Okay, so where's it coming from?
Well, we don't know. That's under investigation.
You must have some clues though, Minister.
No, because the nature of these attacks is they're harnessing thousands of computers from all over the place to target and attack a single website at a time. So trying to troll your way through all of that, no pun intended, trawl your way through that is very, very difficult. So there is an investigation underway, and because other countries are involved, including Five Eyes partner countries, we're working with others to conduct that investigation.
So if you don't know who's doing it, do you know where it's coming from, what country it's based in?
No, because the computers that are sending the messages that constitute the denial of service attack come from all over the place. So there's no point in sort of going back through the computers that are sending messages to the website. You've got to go back through other means. In some cases, there are messages sent by the attackers to their target organisations, and you've got to investigate back through that.
So currently we have absolutely no idea who is doing this or where it's coming from, whether it's a state actor or it's some other group. No idea.
Well, we can't be certain about any of that. What we can do is, looking at the character of the attack, the nature of the messages coming through, is conclude that it is more likely than not criminal actors as opposed to state actors. But we'll continue to compare notes with partner agencies in other countries and continue the work of investigating where the source of the attack is.
Yeah, so you look at hallmarks. So what are the hallmarks telling you beyond what you've just mentioned?
Well, they point to more likely than not being criminal actors as opposed to being state actors. Names are being used of front names for state actors who've had attributions made about them in the past, but it looks increasingly likely, as it did from the outset, that the use of those names is a bit of a decoy as opposed to a genuine use of a name used by previous state actors.
Again, any communication from these individuals or people? Any ransom demand?
Well, in some cases they have sent messages foreshadowing the attacks. I can't go into the detail of that.
So messages, just to be clear, sorry, Minister, messages to New Zealand companies, if not the stock exchange, others?
Well, messages to the target organisation, so to the stock exchange, to other organisations. As I understand it, some of the organisations attacked more recently, for example over the weekend, didn't receive messages beforehand.
When was the earliest warning that came through?
Well, as I understand it, last week when the attacks were focused on the stock exchange and one or two other organisations, messages were sent before those attacks were mounted.
So before the stock exchange was attacked, some other entity or organisation received a warning that they were in the sights of the cyber attacker?
No, as I understand it, the organisations whose websites came under attack had received messages prior to those attacks saying that they would be attacked.
And did they give a reason why or ask for money?
I don't want to go into all the detail of that communication. It's part of the investigation, and it's a matter for those organisations. But there were messages sent. I don't have the detail on the time between the message being sent and the attack being mounted, but I understand it was a reasonably brief period of time.
Okay, so let me put it another way. Is this ideological or is it financial? Do they want money or are they sending a message?
Look, it's simply not possible to say. It may be financial, it may be ideological, it may just be a bunch of people who enjoy causing disruption and seeing that they found at least one vulnerability, enjoying seeing them exploit that vulnerability again and again.
Okay, so the GCSB has put out a security advisory. We know of at least 2 other organisations who have been subject to attacks. How is this escalating?
Well, we know that it is. There are ongoing DDoS attacks to New Zealand organisations and indeed to organisations in other parts of the world. The nature of DDoS attacks is, they do happen. Other organisations are attacked, but the nature of their IT infrastructure and architecture is that they absorb those attacks and they don't suffer disruption to their business.
But do you think they're all the same operators at this stage?
It's possible, not possible to say with certainty, but it is more likely than not that it is the same operator. The modus operandi appears to be the same.
Okay, and you say it's not just in New Zealand, that there are other attacks going on in other countries. Which others that are in some way connected to what's happening to us?
Well, there's a number of other countries where it is happening.
Which ones?
I couldn't give you a list of them. They're in Southeast Asia. They're in North America. They're in other parts of the world as well. But
and the hallmarks suggested is the same actors as such.
There seems to be some similar characteristics in terms of the messaging and then the nature of the attack that follows.
How concerned are you, given what appears to be an escalation?
Obviously, it is a worry, and the reason why the GCSB is involved, at least as far as the attack on the NZX, is because the NZX is a nationally significant organisation, plays a vital role in our capital markets, but it's also a matter of concern that significant organisations anywhere else in the country would be susceptible to attack. Any organisation in New Zealand is susceptible to attack. The reality is, DDoS attacks happen. Most organisations have prepared for it and are able to absorb the attacks without disruption. The reality about DDoS attacks is that they happen, they might even happen repeatedly, but they fizzle out once it's clear that they're not having any impact and not yielding any response that the attacker might want. And that's what we need to achieve in these circumstances.
Okay, and saying that then, what's the government's position on ransom?
Well, our very strong advice and recommendation is don't pay it. Never ever pay ransom if that's what is being asked for. Because there's no guarantee that if you pay it that it's going to stop the attack. All it does is expose that you're vulnerable.
For clarity, has the government, your government, ever paid ransom for an attack of this kind?
I'm certainly not aware of it, and I certainly haven't been involved in any decision to pay ransom in response to an attack like this, and I'm not aware of any private organisation paying ransom in response to an attack like this.
Are they trying to get into our science facilities, research, especially like the Mulligan Institute, people making vaccine?
I think the nature of DDoS attacks is that they are designed to cause disruption, that they're designed to crash websites and therefore forms of communication and giving information and what have you. In terms of trying to exfiltrate information, that tends to happen through other means, through hacking information networks, but that is not what's happening with DDoS attacks.
Appreciate your time this evening. That is the Minister in charge of the GCSB, Andrew Little.